Hello and welcome to another edition of UFO Video Addicts. Let me give you a quick preview of what I got coming up in this video. The first is this strange humanoid that was filmed over, I believe it's Russia. I think that's what this is. Also have this video of some strange humanoid figure that was caught on security cam. Looks like he's sneaking around. And let's see. And then, you know, this video, I'm not 100% convinced it's real. But apparently shows some guy who was taking video of the moon, and he captured some object crashing into it and then creating this big, huge dust cloud. Again, that dust cloud just doesn't look real to me. And if it is real, it had to have been huge. And then this is another one of those videos that, again, I'm not 100% convinced it's real. I remember when this came out a few years ago. In fact, the reason I looked this up is because I had found this article here, Hiding in Plain Sight, The Argument for Invisible Aliens. And I remembered this video, you know, of this guy who claims to have this piece of glass that he found. And when he looks through the glass, it allows him to see all of these UFOs. But yeah, this, you know, at the end of the video, yeah, you know, he shows this, and this just doesn't look real to me. And if it is real, like, yeah, where is he videotaping this from? So yeah, that's why I question, you know, if that part is not real, I'm not convinced that this is. I mean, although this looks good, I'm like 50-50 on this. Also have this video of Bob Lazar drawing an illustration for Jeremy CORBELL of the craft that he worked on. He talks about these gravity amplifiers. And then this is a video of the, I think it's called the Pascagoula UFO abduction incident, where these two guys claim to have been abducted by this strange these robot-like beings. So take a look at that. Let's see. Also have this interview here with Philip Corso from 1997. And, you know, I had mentioned before that Corso claimed that he was in charge of taking components from crashed saucers and then, you know, giving those components to people in the industry or different industries. And once they back engineered them, figured out how they work, reverse engineered, whatever you want to call it, that they would own the patent. So he talks about that in this video. And then I got this video here from BitChute that, you know, I'd admit most of it went over my head, but it has something to do with using certain frequencies to induce out-of-body experiences. And some people claim to have entered some kind of realm where they interacted with strange beings, you know, reptilians and greys and things like that. And then here's a video about these ancient underground tunnels that have been discovered all over the world. And again, you know, this is more proof that there had to have been advanced civilizations on this planet, because there's no way primitive hunter-gatherers, you know, could have built these tunnels. And then let's see, and then here's this article about hiding in plain sight. How you know there's this theory that some of these UFOs and aliens are constantly around us, but our eyes aren't designed to be able to see them. And then last is this article, you know, about this Canadian MP. Talks about how allies are aware of recovered UAP or UFO materials in a note to Defense Minister. But anyways, oh yeah, you know what? If you appreciate the time and effort that I put into bringing these videos and links to you, please give this video a like, please share, and most importantly, please subscribe, because it will really help me out. Anyways, let's go to this first video here. Let me enlarge the screen. Check this out.
Просто в небе что-то болтается на одном месте.
Anyways, that's a short video. Let's see. Let's go to this one here. This is another one of these quick videos. It's a short. It's only a few seconds long.
You see his face clearly right there.
Yeah, see, I wonder, see, this is viral CCTV footage, mysterious pale figure. Yet I wonder if they could see this with the naked eye. Anyways, let's go to this one here. Yeah, now this one, again, like I said, I'm not 100% convinced it's real. I mean, I get it, you know, the guy's filming the moon. But watch, you'll see this object come in from the top right of the screen. And then the dust cloud that it makes is, I guess it's just way too big. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, you see this object right here? Yeah, you see, if that dust cloud was real, let me go back to that. See, if this dust cloud were real, right? I mean, it's a certain percentage of this moon, so this thing would have to be like a couple hundred miles, or maybe, yeah, a couple hundred miles high, which to me just seems kind of improbable. But again, you know, I don't know. That's why I always leave the links, and you know, you can check it out yourself and come to your own conclusions, but I'm not 100% convinced. And same thing with this one here. Just like I said, you know, this is a video that I saw a couple years ago. And even back then, yeah, I was questioning whether it was real or not. But check this out. Yeah, this is a long video. Let's see, let me back up to about here. Oh, yes, okay, so now check out this piece of glass, right? You see the shape of this glass because later on in the video, he has different shapes. Now, yeah, and unless he picked up several different pieces from, you know, wherever he found it. But anyways, check this out.
Вот что это за хуйня. Это, блядь, какая-то технология, похоже, которая нахуй это... как сказать-то? Скрывает, короче... Ну, делает видимым. Через это стекло, вот, специальное стекло.
Yeah, you see, when he brings that glass down, you know, the thing disappears. So if this is some kind of digital editing, he did a really good job, which is, again, why I'm still, yeah, I'm 50-50 on this, too.
Какая-то невидимость, видать, включена. Потому что глазом это не видно. Нету ничего. Подносим. Вот оно. Блядь. Так, я, короче, сейчас ближе схожу, посмотрю.
Okay, yeah, so then he walks around. Well, yeah, so yeah, he walks around. Look how close this one is. Let me back that up a little. Back up a little more.
Так, я, короче, сейчас ближе схожу, посмотрю. Так, ну-ка, сейчас.
You see that? There's nothing there, and then when he brings the glass up, he can see it. And yeah, if this is some fancy editing, it's definitely like professional editing. If this is fake.
Вот это, блядь, прикол. Блядь. Блядь, ну нету ничего. Пиздец. Нету.
Yeah, you see when he brings that glass up, you know, that thing just suddenly appears. And then he walks around and he goes to different places. Let's see. I think this is a real close-up of it. Yeah, look how low it looks now. Right? I mean, this thing looks like it's lower or just above, just at the top of this building. Let's see, and I think he does some more. Oh no, I guess it disappeared at this point because he doesn't see it anymore.
Не понял. Сейчас посмотрю еще.
But he goes around other places, and I think in here he sees a couple of them fly by.
Заметил только что. Мелькнуло там что-то. Так, сейчас можешь вылететь где-нибудь.
Yeah, there we go.
Блять, вот.
Yeah, so did he just get lucky? Like, again, out of all the places that he could have been pointing that glass and looking, right? He just happened to be pointing it at the spot where, at the one spot where, a sphere flies by. Actually, there were two of them. I think that was just one, but he captures another one where you see two spheres. Well, yeah, what are the chances that, right, that he just happened to be looking at the right spot?
Вон. Видели? Вот, ну все. Улетело. Блять, еще два, смотрите, два.
Yeah, see, look at that. He zooms out right at the right time, and then two of these things go by. Now these things disappear for a second and then reappear, but then he walks around to other parts of the city. Oh yeah, so yeah, there's another craft right there. Like how is he doing that? How is he able to figure out exactly where to stand or where to point the camera? Again, he could have been doing it all over the place, and he just happened to edit, the times that he did catch it. I mean, that's a possibility. But then, yeah, this back here, let's see. Yeah, here, does that look real to you? Let me back this up a little. Yeah, this just doesn't. Yeah, he's capturing these little spheres. Yeah, see, like this looks completely fake. Yeah, this is 100% fake to me. But yeah, this other stuff up here, I don't know. It looks real, but again, what are the chances that he happened to be pointing the camera, in the one spot where he's able to capture, a couple craft flying by? Anyways, so this is now Bob Lazar drawing some images for Jeremy CORBELL.
On the floor above. And these are the gravity amplifiers themselves. Looking down from the top, you'd have the center. In the very center, there's a small reactor. Surrounding this, in three equally spaced areas, are the amplifiers. So this is looking at it sideways, this is looking at it down from the top. And under these amplifiers underneath, and the floor below, are the gravity emitters. So it's the reactor here powering the gravity amplifiers. Gravity amplifiers output goes into the gravity emitters at the bottom, and the resulting gravity beam or anti-gravity wave can be pretty much put anywhere you want to. There was another level up here. Now I had access and was permitted to view and look at the operation of this main level with the gravity amplifiers and the level below, the gravity emitters. There is a level above which consisted of these two areas that I'm not all that familiar with. I assume these to be some sort of navigational engine. People call these large black rectangular areas on the top portholes. I believe they were some planar sensor array that just took in information from the surrounding area, whether it be patterns of stars or what have you. And there was their version of a computer or something to make determinations here that takes input from those sensors and then let the craft know how to orient itself and where it was in space. So that's what I assumed to be up there. I don't know for a fact. Again, that was not part of my job, and I was only led to believe that. The center antenna is really an extension of the reactor in the center, and that's a waveguide, which allows the emission of the gravity wave, which forms kind of a heart shape over the whole craft. That's how it creates its distortion. These gravity emitters can be swung all the way up to 180 degrees. And this allows the craft to essentially stand on two of them and hover, while this one swings up and creates a distortion in front of it, allowing the craft to slide forward. So that's how their low power mode.
Yeah, let me just stop there. I don't want to play too much of this, but yeah, he also talks about how when they actually travel, that the craft would flip on its side and fly sideways. And you know, I've seen videos of these UFOs that did that would flip up and fly sideways. So, anyways, that's that video. Now let's go to this one here. This is the Pascagoula. Let me go back to where this guy talks about when he gets. What they see.
We were sitting on the other side of the pier with our feet, you know, over toward the river, fishing in the river. And the fish still wasn't biting, so I told Calvin, I said, well, you know, we might as well go home. I guess that was when I heard it. It was some kind of zipping sound. And when I turned around, in this area out here, about 40 or 50 feet out there, there was some kind of craft, you know, it was like it's going to come right onto the ground. But it came on down and hovered about a foot and a half or 2 feet off of the ground. We didn't know what to do, you know, the river behind us and that out there not knowing what it was. So, and then before we had time to really do anything, it seemed like an open appeared. And toward the end, it was, you know, toward us. And the blue light, it had blue flashing lights as it was, you know, approaching the ground, but then they went out. And when the opening appeared, some source of light came from the inside. It was just almost blinding.
Sheriff Diamond, can you tell me just what happened that night?
No, sir, I can't. All I can tell you is there was two men came in the sheriff's department approximately 8:30 and 9 o'clock. They were all excited, upset, wanting to climb the walls, hysterical, crying.
Let me just jump ahead where he talks about those beings that picked them up.
And reporting what they have reported. But it seemed to me when they came out that doorway, or that opening, whatever it was, then just almost instantly they were right there on us. And their arms, they had arms, and I saw the arms moving here and in the shoulders, but they had weld. I mean, their fingers were weld, and then they had something like a thumb, and they were like this. We questioned them at length. And then we left the room and recorded all the conversation they had. Recorded
between the two of them. And one of them kept wanting to pray. He said, after all I went through on this earth, I said, why should I have to see something like this?
Calvin Parker, I was questioning him, and at one time he wanted to climb the wall. That's how nervous and how shook up he was.
They had me one on this arm like this, and on the other one, you know, they had my other arm like that. And I just seemed to lift up to the same height they were off the ground, and we just moved into the craft.
Now inside, how did they lay you out? Do you remember how it happened?
Yes. I didn't see any tables or chairs or anything in there. I'm not saying it wasn't in there because the light was almost blinding, but I didn't see any. And when they carried me inside, they seemed to just lean me back, you know. And this eye, I keep referring to it as an eye, and it moved up in front of me about this close, and it started right at my eyes, looking me right in the eye. And it hesitated there for a few seconds, and it just started moving over my entire body. When they brought me in,
You know, I want to say something about this this being here. You know, I've talked about before how there have been several people who have encountered beings, right? And sometimes the beings aren't wearing any type of life support system, and other times they seem to be. So now, if this is a robot, like, I could believe that these are visitors, right? Because I don't think, you know, they're concerned about or they have any issues breathing any type of air. If they're, you know, if they're mechanical, right? You could send a robot to any planet, and I don't think you even have to worry about the oxygen level, or, you know, whatever it is they breathe. But then there are other times when people talk about being abducted by the little grays or the Nordics, and those, you know, those guys aren't wearing any type of life support system. They're completely acclimated to our gravity. So I think those are those are from there. Those originate from this planet. Anyways, let's go to this video about Philip Corso.
Well, the book is really my experiences as I lived them in research and development of the Army under General Trudeau, Arthur Trudeau, and he drew me back in and put me in charge of that and established a Foreign Technology Division for me. And these were the artifacts on a crashed flying saucer, which we used the word applied engineering. Was Dr. Teller was still alive, knows he helped him. And we fed these things. He gave me the job of finding industry or scientists that were close to these items and feed us to them in normal R&D projects.
And you're saying these items came from somewhere else?
They came from a flying saucer.
How do you know that?
Because they were marked in the files as coming from New Mexico.
Roswell?
Yeah, Roswell. Well, I think some came, maybe another crash, but these came from New Mexico and Roswell especially. And General Trudeau gave me the job of working out a program, put these things out, feed them to industry, but there was provisions feeding them. They could have the patents, but they had to feed them out back to us as a competitive edge of the Army, and to the American people and the world if necessary. Like the Japanese interviewed me, and I told them we put the integrated circuit out, and we also gave it to you. And I told the Japanese this right at the interview at Roswell.
Give me a little laundry list of the things that, the technologies that are at least partially responsible from the Roswell.
Well, there's the number one was the integrated circuit. Number two in importance was laser, because I had some laser instruments also. Then fiber optics came out of this. The imaging devices or night viewing devices came from this. Some of the work we did, electromagnetism and the ICBMs, and came from this.
Imagine the scientists and technicians and the companies that worked on this stuff are not real happy with your version of it.
No, I haven't heard anything. In fact, I've heard from scientists, at least a dozen of them since then, and they're supporting everything in the book. They say it's true. In fact, I just got a letter before I left from McDonald's nephew, or son, and he told me that a lot of people come from IBM, from Hughes, and from the White Pass and everywhere, and said that I filled some of the holes in which they've been wondering about for many years. And I just got this the day I left home, 2 days yesterday.
So is there?
Yeah, you know, if you think about how our species has used technology, right? I mean, if you go back to our Neolithic period, you know, the first great leap in technology was the ability to control fire. And then thousands of years go by before the next great leap in technology, which was the invention of the wheel, right? And then thousands and thousands of years go by before the next great leap, which was the ability to smelt iron. And then, you know, again, thousands of years go by before we hit the electricity. We discovered electricity, right? And then, you know, several hundred years go by before we finally get into the industrial age. And then from the industrial age up into the 50s, you know, there weren't a lot of technological innovations. I mean, I guess you could say, you know, there were definitely more, you know, than the previous 1,000 years. But if you think about all of the technological advancements that came about in the 1950s, right? If you think the Roswell crash happened in 47, and you know, now we learned that there was a crash in Italy in 1933, right? So I'm sure, you know, yeah, somewhere around the mid 50s, right? From 1947 to say 1955, 1960 is when I think the United States was finally in a position with the capability to understand some of these advanced technologies. But, you know, again, if you look at where we have come, all of the modern conveniences that we now have, that all originated from the 50s. And I think a lot of the stuff that we use today, right, is all based on technology that must have come out of this crash recovery program. But anyways, let's go to this other video here. Yeah, like I said, this video, some of it, in fact, not some of it, most of it went way over my head, but it has to do with using certain frequencies to induce out-of-body experiences.
Focus 24. In the terms of our 3D perspective, the fourth dimension is located where the Van Allen radiation belt is. Fiona Barnett claims she was guided to visit the hellish realms and was also guided to communicate with fourth dimensional beings. In an interview, Robert Monroe claimed there were various fourth dimensional beings. He claimed the most common ones people came across he called the alligators. He claimed they have an intelligence the same or superior to ours and look like alligators. In UFOlogy, these entities have been called the reptilians. They are believed to be fourth dimensional entities who are malevolent and survive by siphoning off our life force energy from the third dimension. In Robert Monroe's book, Far Journeys, he claimed for an out-of-body experience, he traveled to Focus 15 and visited past Earth timelines. While there, he claimed he witnessed these entities seed human life on Earth, creating the current human species solely to create the most louche energy for them to feed off. The entities have been termed as the collectors. Other than these entities, in his book Far Journeys, during the 8th chapter, he described in the lower parts of the 4th dimension, but not within the belief system territories, he came across the terror of demons, or demon-like beings that were trying to attack his astral body. Mr. Courtney M. Brown, PhD, was trained by Ed Dames, a former remote viewer for the US military intelligence who underwent the CIA's remote viewing program introduced by Robert Monroe. From what he learned, he taught Courtney how to remote view with the out-of-body techniques. Courtney Brown, during an out-of-body experience, claims to have traveled to the first lower overtones of the 4th dimension. As the wavelength gets shorter and shorter, this wavelength is estimated to be between -7.24 and -10.86, these being the first and second lower overtones of the 4th dimension. Here is where the dimensional beings such as the Greys and the Reptilians are believed to exist. Courtney Brown, using the CIA's techniques, claims to have tracked down the source of the hive mind of the Greys. The Grey aliens are believed to operate on a hive mind consciousness, meaning one viewpoint is of all viewpoints. In chapter 19 of a book called The Dulce Book, he describes what he came across. He was specifically instructed to search out the ultimate command or control center of the collective. With guidance of a trainer, Ed Dames, Courtney Brown went into the out-of-body state and was instructed to find the source of the Grey's hive mind. Courtney found himself in the first lower overtones of the 4th dimension where he found many great beings. He followed the collective mind or thought flow and found it to be absolutely massive. He found what he called a scent or a heartbeat of the massive collective thought flow. He claimed there was a steady stream of information flowing from it being passed to all the other Greys. He noticed at one point an unusual subspace interdimensional being seemed to be directing the activities of the Greys he was observing. He said he discovered that the bodies of the Greys themselves were incarnated by such subspace beings which apparently entered the Greys' embryonic bodies and then used them as vessels to manipulate physical reality. Courtney Brown was then instructed to locate other beings who apparently controlled the Grey Collective from a subspace dimension or astral level. He found himself in an area where several of these subspace or paraphysical entities were located. As he continued towards this center, the number of subspace or non-corporeal beings increased until he came to a place of much activity. There was a large number of entities in this area. He came to what he sensed was the central governing center of the subspace beings' activity, and in the center of this was another area where he counted a council of 10 very high-level subspace or paraphysical entities congregated. These were apparently the governing principalities who were engaged in running the whole operation. This was where the information was coming from, which was in control of the Grey Hive Mind Collective. Courtney then came across what he perceived as the supreme leader of the Council of 10. At this point, Courtney came back to in his body. He described to his trainer that the leader was a being which he perceived as being full of darkness. So these were some of the other experiences subjects had within the fourth dimension using the CIA's techniques of astral projection taught to them by Robert Monroe. These were not included in the declassified files but were written in books. Let me know what your thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely believe that astral projection is possible because I've had an experience with that. But this idea of time travel, it's hard for me to accept, mainly because the idea of time, or the concept of time, time as we know it, as far as like, certain dates, certain moments on Earth, like let's say, 3:43 p.m. That time, in that sense, is a man-made construct, right? If humans didn't exist, time wouldn't exist. You know what I mean? Like if I wanted to, like, say, travel back in time, 2,000 years ago, right? Like, how does the universe know? Like, if I were to put in a machine, December, 14th in the year, 2050 BC, right? How does the universe know that time, right? Or how does space-time, understand that moment in time from my perspective? Right? Because again, the idea of time and dates is a man-made construct, right? Like today's date, is based on, some moment in time, 2023 years ago, right? When some humans just decided, okay, from now on, we're going to start keeping track of time. And the idea of clocks, right? I guess someone figured out that you could break down the days into, hours, minutes, and seconds, right? And then, and then just based on that humans' decision, right, is when we started keeping track of time, which is what leads us to this date today. But like to an animal, animals have no idea about date and time, right? They just do whatever they feel based on instinct. But to me, time is a man-made construct. So the idea that you could travel back in time to any particular date, again, how does the universe understand dates, from our perspective, from our point of view? Anyways, let's go to this one here about all these subterranean tunnels all over the planet.
Subterranean passages. It is claimed that the Earth's crust is honeycombed by a network of tunnels passing under the ocean from continent to continent and leading to subterranean cavities in the Earth. These tunnels are especially abundant in South America, especially under Brazil, which was the chief center of Atlantean colonization, and we believe the Atlanteans constructed them. The most famous of these tunnels is the roadway of the Incas, which stretches for several hundred miles south of Lima, Peru, and passes under Cusco, Teotihuacan, and the Three Peaks. Proceeding to the Atacama Desert, another branch opens in Arica and Chile. Many of today's reported underground activities seem to be centered around some of the same areas that ancient excavations are known to be located. For instance, in and around White Sands, New Mexico, and the Four Corners area of the country. In his 1956 prehistory book, Mysteries of Ancient South America, Harold T. Wilkins presented the case of civilizations centered in Central and South America that existed long before the ancient civilizations of Akkad, Sumir, and Egypt. In fact, beginning with a bearded race of highly civilized people in the Brazilian highlands, Mr. Wilkins wrote, tropical South Americans may very well have been the cradle of the Earth's civilization, from which it spread outwards to Europe and Africa on the one side and Asia on the other, and include the most ancient land never submerged by an ocean, and also it was never ground under the tremendous glaciers of the ice ages. The tropical South America subregion is comprised of Colombia, French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Brazil. Wilkins put forth the theory that these bearded men came from Atlantis. However, some of his evidence points in another direction.
Let me stop this right. Yeah, I think that these guys, these ancient bearded men, I believe that that these are the people that arrived from another planet. I think these were advanced humans that, again, they arrived from another planet. Otherwise, why were they so different than the quote-unquote indigenous humans on the planet that all lived as hunter-gatherers, and they lived in tribes? Suddenly, I've said this before, suddenly you get these people here who are building these great city-states, right, using advanced architecture. In fact, that they're using sacred geometry to build their structures, where there is nowhere else on Earth are they building structures like this. Again, go to YouTube, go find a video on what ancient Greek cities look like, right? How did those ancient Greeks know, right, how to construct the structures that they were building, the temples that they made? Like I've said this before, there's nothing in the archaeological record that shows how these people learned this stuff. Some of the remnants of some of their buildings still exist today, but there aren't any like practice buildings, right? When the Greeks or the Mycenaeans, the Minoans, the Etruscans, right, and all of those other early civilizations around the Mediterranean, yet they were building houses and other structures that required advanced mathematics to build. So if it didn't originate on Earth, right, where would be the most, from my perspective, the most logical? I think, those ancient peoples, again, in the Mediterranean, they must have arrived here from another planet. Again, I go back to, they also sunburned, right? Everywhere else, all these other hunter-gatherers all over the planet had melanin. Then you get these people who are building structures, again, nothing like any of the other melanated people. And these guys sunburn. I think they sunburn because they must have come from a planet that was further away from the sun. Anyways, let's go to this article here. Hiding in plain sight, the argument for invisible aliens. Where is everybody? In a universe of at least 100 billion galaxies, why hasn't anyone stopped by? See, that's so stupid. They're already here. They've been here. They've always been here. It says, let me see here. What if our invisible aliens aren't living among us in Shadow's biosphere or using different building blocks? What if they've already visited and aren't coming back? What if they're not alien at all? As noted by Business Insider, it's possible that interstellar travelers visited Earth billions of years ago when their own star systems was closer to ours. Maybe they watched the first organic molecules form or walked among the dinosaurs. Perhaps they accidentally nudged an asteroid towards Earth on their way out of town. Other experts like Harvard's Avi Loeb wonder if strange interstellar objects like Oumuamua, the first known interstellar object to pass through our solar system, detected in late 2007, were of alien origin and sent to Earth deliberately. Go deeper into We're Not Alone Out Here speculation, and you'll find theories like the one from Michael Masters of Montana Technological University in Butte. He notes that while the collective evidence for unidentified flying object continues to grow, details on actual extraterrestrials are almost entirely absent. See, this is such bullshit. That's not true. He posits that the seeming existence of advanced technology without alien operators could suggest a future in which humanity discovers time travel. Humans regularly visit the past and occasionally make the mistake of letting their advanced craft get noticed since they're physically and visually human. Any crash landing or future people infiltrations would go unnoticed. In effect, they're temporal visitors, aliens by eons rather than, no, see, I think they're here. I think that, again, they've always been here, right? There are cave paintings of petroglyphs. I played that video of Lou Elizondo talking about, reading documents that were written in Latin of Greek soldiers, seeing the luminous crafts in the sky. So, yeah. Again, in the past, I think there were advanced alien species or advanced species already existing on Earth, since before the Ice Age, and there were also advanced beings that arrived on our planet, and they probably landed somewhere around, in the Mediterranean and in other areas of the Middle East. Like I think the Persians, again, if you look at some of their structures, or I think they're called the Nabateans. I think the Nabateans also must have arrived from a different planet, and they built the city of Petra, right? And there are also like structures in Iran that could not have been built by ancient hunter-gatherers. That whoever built those things, they knew what they were doing. Anyways, let's go to this last article here. Manitoba MP suggests Canada allies aware of recovered UAP or UFO materials in note to Defense Minister. A Manitoba member of Parliament wrote Canada's Minister of Defense this spring suggesting the country has participated in a secret multi-nation program devoted to the recovery and exploitation of material from unidentified aerial phenomena, more commonly known as unidentified flying object or UFOs. Yeah, remember, they changed the name from UFOs, unidentified flying objects, to unidentified aerial phenomenon because, now they know that these things aren't just flying around the planet. Right? We also see them underwater. You don't fly underwater. And we see these things go from, pop out of our oceans, fly through our atmosphere, and then enter into space. You're not flying in space. So, so they had to change it to unidentified aerial phenomenon. Anyways, last week the podcast, Weaponized published a letter that appears to be from Brandon Soros MP Larry Maguire addressed to Defense Minister Anita Anand on March 22nd, 2023. Other copies appeared online this week. Citing meetings with unnamed American officials, Maguire suggests Defense Research and Development Canada is in possession of recovered UAP material. As Minister of National Defense, you may not be aware DRDC has participated in efforts to analyze UAP, reads a portion of the letter. It is incumbent your department inform you what collaborative efforts have occurred with our allies and the details of existing agreements and memorandum of understanding that govern the program and may have been coordinated through global affairs. The letter refers to a Five Eyes foreign materials program Maguire says exists between Canada, the US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand that has been sponsored by Canadian Forces Intelligent Command Canada. The Conservative MP goes on to write, it is essential Canada's chief science advisor be let in on the program. Maguire calls for parliamentary oversight and for Adnan and the Canadian government to develop a public communication plan ahead of what he terms upcoming public revelations that will stem from these American foreign materials program. A spokesperson with Maguire's constituency office in Brandon declined to comment by phone, and Maguire did not respond to requests for comment over email. The Conservative Party of Canada also did not respond to a CBC News request to interview Maguire. Anyways, so this goes on to essentially say that the Canadians have also been working, most likely the United States, because I'm sure, yeah, we have crashes in our country that, yeah, that again, some of them are visitors. I think the majority are these advanced beings that live under the oceans and in deep earth caverns, in Antarctica. And again, occasionally they crash. And, I've heard this argument also used before, like, oh, if they're so advanced, how come they crash? Well, again, we're advanced enough to send probes to Mars, right, to another planet. But guess what? Sometimes those things crash too, right? Because I don't think, it doesn't matter how advanced you are. I don't think they're incapable of failure, right? Again, yeah, even if you are highly technologically advanced, it doesn't mean that you're immune from failure, or you're immune from some unknown device, right? Like I've played those videos before where we accidentally figured out that if we were to point our radar arrays at some of our advanced neighbors' craft, that it would disrupt their navigation system and we could cause them to crash. And again, and they sent some of their emissaries to our government and asked them to stop doing that. And again, this is not something that's discussed a lot, but in the 1950s, there were a lot of American passenger planes that were being knocked out of the sky. And it's because they were retaliating. As long as, we continued to bring down their craft, they retaliated and started knocking down our planes out of the sky. But that's something that is not talked about a lot. But, I think it was David Paulides. I'm going to have to find that video. David Paulides actually did an episode on his YouTube channel where he discusses this rash of passenger planes, commercial planes that were crashing in the 1950s. But anyways, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. And again, if you appreciate the time and effort that I put into bringing all of this information to you, please give this video a thumbs up. Please share, and most importantly, please subscribe. It will really help me out. Take care.